Well, joining me for more on that presidential debate, let's turn to Haxi Myers-Belkin, who's here now with the reaction in the French papers. Hi, Haxi.
Hi, Belle.
And it really was an unprecedented exercise, wasn't it?
It absolutely was. It was the second of 3 TV debates before the French head to the polls in just a couple of weeks. But it was, as you said earlier, the first TV debate in French history to involve every single candidate to make it through to the first round of voting. And this year there are 11 of them. That's quite a gang. You see them all there on the front page of a centre-right daily, Le Figaro. It's quite an impressive sight under the headline Au Grand Bazar de la Présidentielle, which translates roughly as the Grand Presidential Bazaar. The paper quite simply thinks that the format made for a chaotic debate.
And the paper's front page editorial goes a step further even, doesn't it?
It does. So under the subheader, A Fractured France, we read here that last night's debate perfectly recreated the sorts of spirited conversations you'd find in any French cafe from Lyon to Marseille. That's to say, the debate was rowdy and often went round in circles, so kind of tongue-in-cheek there. There were as many opinions as there were participants, putting the big names up against the smaller candidates on a single stage brought nothing new to the table, we read here, other than maybe a reminder that France is, at the moment, a fractured republic. And that analysis is actually echoed elsewhere in the paper too, with this opinion piece lamenting just how quickly the debate became confused, with the so-called smaller candidates trying to be as offensive and incendiary as they possibly could in order to get the airtime that they so desperately wanted, which we read here had the rather peculiar effect of casting the best-known candidates, the frontrunners, into new and unexpected lights. Let me give you some examples. Next, the communist candidate Philippe Poutou, socialist candidate Benoît Hamon seemed right-wing, we read here, and next to Eurosceptic François Asselineau and far-right leader Marine Le Pen, conservative candidate François Fillon seemed left-wing. So essentially, from this I think we can deduce that the journalist was left a little disorientated and maybe a little baffled by last night's debate.
Hard sometimes to draw out the important lines from an 11-person debate.
Exactly.
And the centre-left paper Le Monde also focusing on the format of this debate.
Yes, and perhaps surprisingly, Le Monde and Le Figaro are very much in agreement here. Was this a débat pour rien? Was it a debate for nothing? Asks this opinion piece. We read here that yes, allowing candidates who are predicted to win less than 5% of votes in the first round of the election did absolutely give them an opportunity to present their plans, their ideas to the French public, but it did also render the ideas of the main candidates almost inaudible, and I'm quoting there. Fillon and Hamon were apparently most affected by that cacophony, we read here. The one mainstream candidate who did come out of this debate well is centrist Emmanuel Macron, whose concise and confident style meant that he left the exercise unscathed, we read here.
And Haxi, there's one paper here in France that's taking a slightly different view on that new format, isn't it?
Yes, and that is a left-wing daily Libération. We can see the front page just there. The little candidates shake up the debate, and that's definitely not a bad thing, according to this paper. In the paper's editorial, we read that men and women who've been consigned to the shadows of this presidential race actually stole the show last night, and that it's actually still too early to rule out the possibility that one of those smaller candidates, those fringe candidates, may yet cause upset at the polling booths.
And of course, the big question, who was the winner? Are there any papers who are willing to stake a winner for them?
There is one, and it's Le Parisien. It's been pretty brave today. The winners and losers reads the headline of their front page. And if you count the number of candidates on that front page, you'll see there are actually only 10 of them. Philippe Poutou of the extreme left actually refused to take part in that group photo. And very interestingly, this paper thinks that Poutou gave the second best performance of the night, just behind centrist frontrunner Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron, we read here, was the most adept at deflecting criticism, not the first time we've heard that, and he did launch a number of stinging attacks on Marine Le Pen of the far right, especially with regard to Europe. But it was Poutou, a car factory worker, who most exceeded expectations. Not only was he both modest and combative, but he also delivered the night's standout line. He accused anti-system Marine Le Pen of hypocrisy for her readiness to plead parliamentary immunity when refusing to be questioned by police about whether or not the far-right party, the French far-right party, did in fact misuse EU funds to pay National Front employees. So while your average factory worker enjoys no such worker immunity, we read here. So when a factory worker is summoned by the police, well, he has no choice but to answer their questions, said Poutou there in the debate last night. And it's definitely a very interesting clip. You should catch it online if you haven't done so already.
It certainly is. You heard it here first. Do go and catch that clip online. Haxi Maes Belkin with the French Press Review. Thank you very much for that. We'll be talking